Hockey is a funny game, isn't it? You can give up six unanswered in a period, lose 9-2, eight times in a single season. You allow at least six goals, but then you go play who is likely going to be the Vezina Trophy winning goaltender. You play a road game in a hostile environment on an emotional game for Patrick Laine in Winnipeg, and the Montreal Canadiens play one of their tighter, structured games in a loss. Welcome to the morning after the night that was the Montreal Canadiens getting doubled up, but not really. It was a 3-2 hockey game until an empty netter was scored, and the Canadiens lose in Winnipeg 4-2, and we have a lot to get into on a milestone night. Let's say hello to Shaun Campbell. He's one half of Campbell v. Gallo, 10-2, weekdays on TSN 690. You'll hear him occasionally call the Montreal Canadiens games, regularly call the Laval Rocket, which we will get into. We've got prospects. We have goalie chatter to talk about because we have goaltending issues at the NHL level I want to address with Campbell. But in the here and now, what did you make? What's your takeaway from the Canadiens losing in Winnipeg 4-2 on a Saturday night?
Man, it reminds me of a couple of years ago when they used to play up to their level. When they used to get up to that level and they're playing a good team and you knew it was going to be a good game. I felt 3 minutes into that game, I was like, we've got a good hockey game.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't take long to determine that the Canadians were up for the battle. And I think that that was necessary after the 9-2 drubbing against the Penguins, and that third period collapse where they let in six goals in a situation where the Canadians looked like they didn't care about the game of hockey and just wanted to go into the locker room, and just got worse and worse and worse and worse. I thought the start of the game was something I wanted to watch. I wanted to see how they were going to react. And I thought they came out ready to fight one of the better teams in the NHL, at least in the Western Conference, with the way that Jets are started the season. They've been down a little bit, but that was a good game from the Canadians. Unfortunately, they weren't able to pull it out, but I think the milestone itself, that first goal from Lane Hutson was the important mark of that game. It was neat to see.
So let's get into Lane Hutson. Obviously, I mean the guy is he's a workhorse. Everything I read about him, what people tell me about 48. I mean, look at the warm up drills this guy is doing in the face-off circle. His hands, his concentration. He's the first on the ice. He's the last to leave it. The usual suspect. When you want to identify a future leader of the Montreal Canadiens, and there he is. I mean, look at this beautiful goal he scores. Snipe City, past Connor Hellebuck. My favorite thing, other than Lane Hutson's scoring on a Saturday night, is it sucked that it didn't happen at the Bell Center. Oh, well, too bad, so sad. A goal is a goal is a goal. It would have been extra special at the Bell Center, no doubt. But I think outside of seeing 48 score Saturday in Winnipeg, two teammates rush for the puck. Look at Mike Matheson and then Cole
Yeah.
Caulfield, who's on the rush. He doubles back like something. You literally see his brain work in real time because he does like a stutter and then makes a beeline.
Mhm.
So two things for me. Obviously, Lane Hutson is an incredibly special player. And for me, it's another example of how tight this team is, how happy they are for each other when they're scoring goals, like Caulfield purposely feeding Laine to try to get him off the schneid. The celebration, Caulfield from behind Patrick Laine, right, was incredible imagery. Caulfield was happier for Laine than Laine was when he scored his first goal as a
Yeah.
Canadian. And then two guys go to get the puck for Lane Hutson, who finally gets his first goal with 19 assists. What's your reaction to all that?
Yeah, I'm with you. Those are the things that I look for. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was pretty sweet. Um, so let's flash back to the
Yeah,
summer,
yeah,
and I was 100%. Lane Hudson came at the end of the season last year, played the handful of games, and then everybody in the summer, we do summer radio, Shaun. We got to talk about something. Where's Lane Hudson? And I kept putting my hands up, going, hold off, hold off. Let's not put him on the team just yet. Let's
right.
see where he fits. Let's see where Mayu is. Let's see where Reinbacher is. Let's see where the Canadians want to go with their defense core. They have players that have been in the league. Maybe Lane Hudson's going to be in Laval. I put my hands, hold up, hold up. And I was on that patience train. People were like, no, he's on the team. What's going to happen? We get the privilege, Campbell versus Gallo, every now and then to go to training camp. And we went that week of training camp. First day of training camp. Got there, set up the table, put everything up, connected, watched the way that they started warming up and the first practice.
Mm-hmm.
changed my mind. Took me one practice to change my mind about Lane Hutson.
No
And I'm
kidding.
talking about a training camp practice. The way that he practices, um, I love getting to go to Brossard even last week. First thing I marked down in my book, 9:49, Lane Hutson first on the ice. Practice goes from 10:30 to 11:15. Last off the ice, 12:15, Lane Hutson. And I'm like,
Wow.
this guy's been on the ice for 2.5 hours when he was supposed to be on the ice for 45 minutes. And it's the dedication to the craft, how hard he practiced, how hard he worked, impressed me so much. The next day after that training camp that I saw him live, I was on the air saying, this guy's on the team and he's going to play every single game this year. I was so impressed by one practice. And
Yeah.
now we're watching him. And I love the fact that the story of him scoring his first goal is is not about, hey, when's he going to score his first goal? Come on, he hasn't been around. Come on, like that used to be the story for every rookie. Is like, is he ever going to score his first goal? No one cared when he was going to score his first goal because he was playing so well, and then he finally did. It wasn't a muffin. It wasn't a bounce off seven players. He sniped it by the best goalie in the league. That's amazing. Good for him.
It is amazing. And like we brought up Victor Mete's name this week on the morning show with yours truly and Connor McKenna. I'm like, that name won't be brought up again. No reason to bring up Victor Mete. He certainly doesn't belong in the same
Yep.
sentence as Lane Hutson, who got his 20th point of the season and his first goal Saturday in Winnipeg in a 4-2 loss. Before we get into the other turning point from that hockey game, in a game where, Montreal kept up with Winnipeg. I mean, the stats were tight throughout the course of the game. Winnipeg didn't skate Montreal out of the building. To me, I saw a lot of character in the Canadiens, and I agree that they need to wear that 9-2 loss to Pittsburgh. Like, it's not a throwaway game. No, it's like 8 times this season and a couple of times already that they've been like just drubbed. And sometimes you got to wear that a little bit. And I thought they did, and I thought they had a nice pushback. But I want to talk about Lane Hutson's ceiling before we move away from 48 for a second. He had 19 assists, 20 points on the year, third in team scoring. Like, he's played 32 games as a sample size, Shaun. 32 games of an NHL sample size. He's 10 points off the team lead. Like, what's the ceiling for this guy? He's responsible for like 25% of the Canadiens' offense this year. Like, the list can go on and on about how impressive he is with 32 games under his belt. Like, I know he's just scratching the surface, but when he's done scratching and he claws his way to the top, what does the top look like?
I'm, I think a lot of people can easily equate. It's not easy to equate to a Kale McCarr, but it's easier to equate to maybe a Quinn Hughes
Right.
and what he does. So they
That's a
say the
Norris Trophy
size.
winner there.
You see the size, you see the offensive ability, you see the leadership, and because I think you make a very good point about the leadership capabilities of Lane Hutson. I think
Yeah.
that is just the work ethic. And it's funny because I don't know much about Lane Hutson except for what I see on the ice. And I was watching. It was a year ago. It was the Stanley Cup show, the NHL show, and they did a whole thing about captains, and one of them was about Quinn Hughes and about eating right and doing all those little things that Quinn Hughes did once he was named captain of the Vancouver Canucks. I was like, I wonder, not that I'm thinking captaincy down the line. Nick Suzuki's kind of the mainstay and he's there, but the leadership and those decisions that he has to make. But so what's the ceiling? I kind of think it's unfair to put Quinn Hughes on him. I think that, but I also go, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It being a point a game defenseman, not out of the realm. The only adjustment is I'm curious about a player like this that came from college when he gets to game 50 and 60 of the season. Every rookie goes through a dry spell when they hit, the
Yeah.
the depth of the NHL season, and then season number two, the sophomore slump. Those things are real. Those are real because NHL teams have no idea how to defend against Lane Hutson, but they're not stupid. They're going to be able to figure him out. But I also think that he's going to be able to adapt and still provide offense. So my ceiling is probably a regular 55, 60, 65 point defenseman, which any team would take on any day of the week.
Amen. The Canadiens came to life in the third period. in that 4-2 loss to Winnipeg. They had plenty of chances. Josh Anderson scored his 5th of the year. He ends a 9-game goalless drought. Josh Anderson has found a level of comfort under Martin St. Louis' system. I think he looks the way he does because he's not asked to score goals. Like, you know, maybe a year, 2 years ago, he was looked upon as a legitimate top 6 player. They need Josh Anderson to score goals. Now I think like they've pivoted away from that a little bit. I mean, obviously they want him to score, but I see a guy who just works his butt off, who skates like the wind, who can throw fists. Ask Jacob Trouba when he danced him when Trouba was a New York Ranger. And Josh Anderson looks comfortable. What's your read on Anderson's development under Martin St. Louis?
If I look at Josh Anderson last year and maybe even the year prior, because of the money that's attached to him,
Yeah.
when he had games, I call them the Sam Mitchell games, zero,
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 zero.
zero, zero, zero. He
I
was
love that.
non-existent. Yeah, but he was
Yeah.
non-existent out on the ice. He has games this year where he is 0-0-0, but I look at the game and I said, he did something. You need to be able to, when you're in a bottom 6 role, you need to be able to say that I contributed to this team's victory, to this team's success, even if I don't score a goal. And
Yeah.
it's very, I thought it took almost a year and a half, 2 years for Josh Anderson to think that way. He scored his 26 goals. I'm a 20 goal scorer. And if I don't score 20 goals, my season's a failure. That is the mentality I think he had until this summer. This summer, I think he went into the season and said, if I score 12 goals, but I am effective every time I'm on the ice, I'm okay. I'm comfortable. Now, the fans may not be comfortable with the price tag that comes with a 12 goal scorer. I get that, but he's comfortable, which makes him more successful.
The Winnipeg Jets scored twice on the man advantage. How do we look at the Kirby Dach penalty in which Winnipeg scores their first power play goal of the game? And from that point on, it's happened way too many times for Martin St. Louis' liking. I have to strongly believe, that if the Montreal Canadiens weren't cellar dwellers, that Shaun, if they were legitimately, and I mean legitimately in the mix, I don't know how much runway Kirby Dach would have for a team that would hypothetically be fighting for a playoff spot. Like, it has to be more complicated than 77's in his own head. I mean, this is consistent here. This is not, oh, he's hurt penalties. This is like insecurity, psychological, no confidence, and it's hurting the team, and it's got to be killing. Like, we opened this segment, you and I talking about how we both think this team is extremely tight. Like, they want each other to do well, and I'm sure it's got to be killing Caulfield and Slafkovsky and Suzuki to see 77 struggle. But how much more room is left before Martin St. Louis has to do something else? Like, Kirby Dach's hurting the team, Shaun, on the regular. It's a problem, man.
So I don't know if this has come up, but maybe Marty has wanted to do something, but
Right.
then those decisions were pulled back on him.
Yikes.
And
That's not
I'm not,
surprising.
and here's the thing, and I'm not saying because of the situation team where it's like, hey, I'm thinking we got to sit him, and then someone says, look, don't sit him, put him down in the lineup. Let's, if you have to bench him, bench him. If you have to sit him for a shift, sit him, but don't pull him because I've been looking at it this year. Kent Hughes, who has come in and has been around for 3 years now, has put in his accelerated rebuild. That is a word that they have used. I'm not
Yes.
making that word up. They used accelerated rebuild. And if you look at the 5 big possessions that Kent Hughes has brought in, okay, and I'm not talking about Demidov or Reinbacher because they're not here. Okay, so or further draft choices because you still have to be patient on all those draft choices. But there's 5 big pieces that the Canadians have. Let's take away Patrick Laine because it's only a handful of games. Of the other 4 this year are underperforming. Mike Matheson is not performing like he did last year.
Not close. Not close.
Okay, Alex
Yeah.
Newhook is not performing to the standard that they want. Uri Slafkovsky, their first overall pick, is not performing to the level that they want. And their big prize possession, you could say Slafkovsky's the prize possession because he was first
Sure.
overall, but he's still
Mhm.
20 years old. But their big prize possession, the moment that Kent Hughes came in at the draft, made the move, Kirby Dach. That's their, that's, when it's your first big move, that's the one that's on the mantle. Their mantelpiece is not performing.
Mhm.
And you and I can sit here and say, look, it's a knee injury, and I will be patient with Kirby Dach. But I think Marty might start to be a little impatient with Kirby Dach, but he may not have the leeway because that's the mantelpiece. That's the piece that Kent Hughes brought
Yeah.
in to really change the dynamic in the field. When the Canadians acquired Kirby Dach, everybody, every Habs fan went, Kent Hughes means business. That was the feeling at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. And I keep repeating myself, but he's the biggest X factor on the team. Like it can really accelerate the rebuild if he catches on as the number 2C, and the Canadiens can start building out from that point on. But the penalties are a killer. The Montreal Canadiens going into their Tuesday game with Buffalo, the third most penalized team in hockey, and they're very consistent there. They take a lot of penalties, and it puts so much pressure on everybody from the goaltender out. And it's amazing that they've been more or less top 10 PK and one of the elite teams, certainly shorthanded at home all season, but it's definitely an area that needs to be fixed. And I do think your read is right that if it was totally up to MSL, I could see MSL pulling the chute on Kirby Dach. But I think they're trying to do both things simultaneously, be about the process while also trying to win.